knowledge. It's not free. You have to pay attention.
Motion. Big horse, but light on his feet. And he's always showed up and been consistent and been right there with some of the top horses in training. In the Bluegrass Stakes, he showed his determination and his raw ability.
It's over! Zandon wins the Toyota Bluegrass!
I feel breeders will be really blown away by what a striking, outstanding looking horse he is.
Register now for the 2024 Past the Wire Kentucky Derby Seminar. In-depth analysis of every horse, contenders, pretenders, live long shots, and more. The Kentucky Derby Seminar on PastTheWire.com. Reserve your seat today. Remember, nobody does it better.
Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com. Ciao, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Past the Wire TV at a very exciting time of the year. A little over a week out from the Kentucky Oaks, Kentucky Derby. We're going to talk about handicapping the Kentucky Derby, what to look for, and I probably should better say what I look for. And, you know, this show can kind of serve two purposes. It can give you a window into how I handicap a horse race, like the Kentucky Derby, but it could also give you a little bit of a window into how to just handicap a horse race in general and point out some mistakes that even seasoned bettors make. And seasoned bettors make a lot of mistakes, and we'll get into a little bit of the whys on that in a moment. Starting out with our Sure Bet coffee. I mean, the tumbler is phenomenal. You can't go wrong. The coffee's great. Great cause. Helping horses, drinking coffee, helping keep the mind sharp. Coffee. We love coffee. We love sunglasses. There's certain things we just love. We love good food. We love fast horses, fast cars. Great coffee's on the list. What could I tell you? You know, leading up to the Derby, you're going to hear a lot of hype, a lot of noise, a lot of, you name it, you're going to hear it. What you got to really do is say "fate na gominada" to most of that and block it out. Get it out of your head. Filter the information that you take in. You know, let's start with this. Horse racing, most of us know, is a skill game. But there's not a lot of skill games out there that such a small percentage of people who play it win at or beat it. Horse racing is one of them. You know, nobody really knows for sure the number of people who beat the game. I've done it for a long time, or did it for a long time, I should really say. A lot tougher today than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And it was very tough then. Even tougher today for a litany of reasons. But why? You got to ask yourself, before we get into, you know, how to handicap a race and how to handicap the Derby, why do so few people beat the game? Mistakes, not understanding basic principles. And you know, one of the things that I've talked about many times, you have to be willing to cash less tickets to win more money. You can't use everybody. You've got to take a stand, take a position, back it, make it count when you're right. You can't dance with every girl. You gotta, you know, limit and narrow. Public handicapper one time said that pick sixes are not won with singles. BS. Guy's dead wrong. Guarantee you that the guy who said that does not beat the game. might have had a winning year or two in his 20, 30-year career, whatever it is, but he doesn't beat the game. No shot. Singles do help you win. When I focused on the pick six, and I haven't played them in a long time, now I only play the pick six on Breeders' Cup Day and Kentucky Derby Day. But, singles were a big part of it when it was a $2 wager, and the pools were much bigger before they were diluted by the 50-cent pick four and the 50-cent pick five and everything else that they're throwing out at you. But people make mistakes, and most of them are forgivable mistakes in a way. They're really not, but they are, and I'll explain, because might not come across that clear. But it's forgivable because it's human nature to want to include every horse and want to cash as many tickets as possible. It's just not a recipe for long-term success. You have to cash less tickets, but make it count when you're right. You have to do the homework. You have to realize that you're playing in a pari-mutuel game against the other players, not against the house. And you have to have edges and things that are working to your advantage. You've got takeout, you've got CAWs, you've got things that you've got to overcome in addition to the complexities involved in handicapping a horse race. So to do all of that, you have to understand the game. You've got to, like Albert Einstein once said, you got to learn the rules of the game, and then you got to play it better than anybody else. At least I think that was Albert Einstein. If not, I don't know, maybe it was me. I don't know. I think it was Einstein, though. But you've got to do that. Now, homework, being prepared, essential. If you bring a knife to a gunfight, don't expect to win. You're probably not gonna. If you come unprepared, and if you have bad habits, like chasing all over the board, now with simulcasting, you walk into a racetrack or you flip open your phone. There's 100 tracks to bet, 100 wagers to make. You're not prepared for all of those races. Nobody is. Nobody can be. You got to focus on one race, one track, one sequence. The most 2 tracks. Otherwise, you're taking away any edge that you might have, even if you're a good handicapper. You've got to know how to bet, know how to manage your money, know where to invest big, where to invest less, and all of that comes into play. But we're really going to get into what I look for and how I go after handicapping the Kentucky Derby. And the other thing is, Kentucky Derby is just a horse race. It's a big field, and you've got horses, for the most part, going 1.25 miles for the first time. So it's something new to most of them. Most of them, if not all, are inexperienced. They're young. They're 3-year-olds. So, these factors in and of itself present challenges that have to be dealt with and have to be addressed. And, you gotta know that going in. But there are certain things to look for and certain mistakes that people make that we're going to illustrate that I think will help you. I think it'll help you in handicapping the Derby. And I think it will help you in handicapping races on a daily basis. And with that, I will say that the Kentucky Derby is a great race. It's an exciting race. It's, the most exciting or the fastest 2 minutes in sports, whatever you want to call it. The run for the roses. It's the race that almost everybody wants to win. But it's not the only race on the card, and it's not the only race to bet. It's going to be part of a phenomenal weekend of racing with a plethora of opportunities. The undercard on Oaks Day and Derby Day will offer great wagering opportunities. Look for them, because the Derby is one race that historically has shown the best horse does not always win. Often doesn't win. Was Mind That Bird the best horse in the Kentucky Derby? He was that day, but was he the best horse in the race? No. Was Rich Strike the best horse in the race? No. the best horse doesn't always win. And in the Kentucky Derby, the best horse doesn't always win even more. Uh, Thank you to our friends at Game of Silks, one of the most exciting things to happen to the sport of kings and one of the most positive things to happen to the sport of kings in quite some time. So if you're not playing Game of Silks, you should be. Go to silks.io, check them out. You could have a Silks horse running in the Kentucky Derby, and it might not be too late to even make that happen this year, certainly not next year. So Silks, a lot of information on the channel and in some past videos uh, on them, but go to silks.io, check them out. It's a really exciting part of the sport of kings, and it's definitely part of the future of the sport of kings. So I would say check it out. Got nothing to lose by taking a look. Um, First, getting to the matters at hand. Our Kentucky Derby seminar is getting close uh, to selling out. We've got a little over a week left. It's definitely going to sell out. If you plan on attending, we're going to cover the Oaks, the Derby, and the 4 races leading into the Derby in detail. So if you're so inclined to join us for that, all the information's on passthewire.com. I'll put a link to the information either in the comments or the write-up on this video. And I hope to see, most, if not all of you there. It's always fun. We always take some shots and try and put ourselves in position to do some significant damage. And this year should be no different. Now, I handicapped the Kentucky Derby like any other race, only I know there's a big field and a lot of traffic issues, and you've got to compensate for that and allow for that. But going in, so it is what it is. We deal with it. You know what I mean? We play the hand that we're dealt. But there are certain things to look for that other people don't look for, and I do. And there are certain mistakes I think other people make that I don't. And I think it's one of the reasons that I've been a successful bettor for as long as I have in a game that very few people beat. But if you're beating it, keep beating it. You know what I mean? Don't fix something that ain't broke. But if you're not winning as much as you would like to, or you're not beating it, you're losing, and you want to take a chance at maybe sponging or learning off somebody who has beaten it, then pay attention and reach out, and maybe we could help you make a difference, or I could help you make a difference. We'll see. Nothing to lose, that's for sure. Now, most people, when they handicap the Kentucky Derby and any other race, make mistake number one when they read the past performances. Okay, most people read the past performances from the most recent race and down. Okay, mistake number one. All right, they're not running backwards. You're not going backwards. While you're looking behind you, you ain't going that way. Look ahead. So to do that, I read the racing formulator, or whatever past performances you read. I would suggest reading from the oldest race to the newest race, bottom to top. That helps you identify patterns, trends, and things of that nature a lot easier than going the other way. You kind of follow a horse's career, you follow a horse's form cycle, you follow a horse's peaks and valleys when you do that. So the first thing that I do when I handicap any race, including the Kentucky Derby, is I read the past performances. Okay? When I read the past performances, I try and make a chart or a graph of pace. And I've done a video in the handicapping section on the channel where I talk about how I deciphered the pace and who's going to be where when. And I do it a little differently than anybody else. And I suggest watching that video. I'm not going to go into it now, but take a look at the pace handicapping video and you'll see how I do it. And it works. And, I don't use any pace projectors or anybody else's opinion or pace figures as to who's going to be where when. I can figure that out on my own, and so can you. Um, Replays. I watch a lot of replays. I take a lot of notes. I've been doing that for a long time. Nothing that I trust more when I'm putting down my money than my own eyes. And I suggest you do the same. Uh, no opinion is better than yours, and no eyes are better than yours. Tracking Trips, a subscription service on Pass the Wire. What do I call it? It's not a tout service. It's not a tip service. It's a membership. It's a clan. It's a club of horse racing betting enthusiasts. And all I am is a second set of trained eyes to give you some of my opinions, some of my observations, some of the horses I think are dangerous, and some of the horses I think are not dangerous or overbet. So it's a great tool for any level player, because now that we play from home, most of us, and we're not at the track, and we still like to interact with somebody that may have a good opinion. You've got that at your disposal with Tracking Trips. Uh, now, uh, the Derby. Okay, a lot of people look for a horse that ran huge last time out. And we'll use Fierceness as an example, because a lot of people are going to like Fierceness in the Kentucky Derby. I personally think he's going to go off the favorite. Can he win? Absolutely. But we're not here really to talk about who's going to win, who's going to lose. We did the Thoroughgraph show. We know who's fast, who's not, who's going forward, who's going back. But Fierceness ran a race in the Derby, in the Florida Derby, that I don't like going into the Kentucky Derby. Okay, the race he ran in the Florida Derby is the race I would want to see him run on the first Saturday in May. Can a horse repeat a race like that? I don't know. Getting very tough, special horse to do that. I like a horse that I believe is going to peak on the first Saturday in May, not who peaked already. Fierceness has the look of a horse who may have peaked one race too soon. Maybe they were a little anxious to erase that flop he ran in the race before that. Maybe they wanted to get him some confidence. Could be a number of different things, but and I'm not singling out Fierceness for any other reason than he just fits the example that I'm trying to make. Ultra talented horse, fast horse. But for purposes of the Derby, that's a concern for me. I look for a horse who is going to peak, not who I believe has peaked. Okay. So that to me is a key thing to look for. And Thoroughgraph, which is the next part of my arsenal, past performances, pace, replays, and Thoroughgraph, helps point that out. Okay. Buyers, no offense to anybody, I believe buyers are for blind people. I believe any raw speed figure number are for blind people. You see what you see. You could tell the time of a race. You know who ran fast and who didn't. With Thoroughgraph, I've got ground loss, I've got wind, I've got so many other factors that go into that number, which is why you will at times see the horse that ran third or second have a better number than the winner. You will never see that with a raw speed figure number like a buyer figure. So to me, that's just a waste of time. I could look at the chart and the times of the race and the track variant and the other races on the card, and I know whether a horse run fast or not. I don't need a buyer number to tell me that. And you really, if you're taking this game seriously, you shouldn't need that either. So, to me, buyers are absolutely nothing. I love having them in the formulator and in the racing form, and I wish they were more all over the place, because people pay attention to them, and that creates a potential edge. So, with that, I look for a horse who's going to peak, not who has already peaked. Okay. Just want to make a note of something so I don't forget to say it, like, because when you hit my age, you start forgetting things that you shouldn't forget or wouldn't have forgot a couple of years ago. Next thing that I like to look for, okay, is a horse that shows the ability to fight. All right. Now, this is good in any race, but In the Derby, you got 20 horses. You got jockeys that are being more aggressive than they normally are. You've got traffic. You've got nobody giving an inch. You've got everybody keeping anybody they can in. It's just a wild race. It's a cavalry and rodeo all the way around. So you gotta, you gotta, you gotta, you gotta look for a horse that's got some fight in him. You know, uh, Sierra Leone looks to me like a horse that has some fight, to use an example. He's collared two horses in his last two races and went by them. When he collared Dornoch in the Remsen and Dornoch came back, I think he learned a lot and got a lot out of that race. And he looks like a horse who will fight. And I like that. I like a horse who digs in. So did Dornoch. I mean, Dornoch fought back from the inside, but I think it was more a result of Sierra Leone being a little bit green. But I like a horse that showed they've got the ability to fight. I don't like a horse who's done all his best work when everything has gone his way and has never been in a fight, because unless he's Seattle Slew or Secretariat or, an Authentic who gets the lead and, or a Medina Spirit who gets the lead and nobody challenges them and they go wire to wire. That does happen. But, more often than not, to win the Derby, you're going to have to get into a fight. But the next thing I look for, and even those horses that get those easy leads, okay, they've got to have something that I look for to go that last eighth, 3/16 of a mile. And that's heart, okay? And heart, you can't train, you can't teach. I'm not even sure you could breed it, because there have been horses with heart that have produced horses that ain't got no heart, all right? Heart is key. You got to have heart. When you want to quit, you don't quit. You go that one more round. You got one more round in you. You just got to have the heart to make it come out. And, the Derby will test that. These horses are going 1.25 miles for the first time. Most of them, some of them have been 1 3/16. I don't know. Maybe in Japan they go 1.25 miles first. I don't even know. But most of the time they're going 1.25 miles for the first time under very stressful conditions. Big crowd, a lot of horses, a lot of noise, a lot of excitement, big walkover, commotion in the paddock, everything gets horses keyed up. That's one of the reasons why, even since we've took the sprinters out of the race, okay, with the point system as opposed to the graded earning system, we still get fast paces in the Derby. The Derby is most likely going to be a fast pace. They go 46 to the half, 109, 110 for the 3/4, and you're probably going to see that on the first Saturday in May this year, whether somebody's on the lead by themselves or whether they're all going for it. You see fast paces because these horses are keyed up. They're good horses, but a fast pace doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a closer. Why? Why? Because good horses don't come back like cheaper horses or not so good horses. Not so good horses and cheaper horses will come back to the field off a fast pace, where good horses don't. That's why you see so many speed horses cook early and run phenomenally fast fractions in the Met Mile, and often they don't come back. Good horses will keep going. So I like to look for a horse with heart, a horse that has shown they've got the ability to keep going when they may not want to keep going. And you'll see that when you watch replays in certain horses, and they don't necessarily have to win to show that. They've just got to show that fight and that heart, because that bodes well for a race like the Derby. It's something that I put a lot of weight on and a lot of importance on, and I look for. Now this kind of ties into, and all of these things kind of tie into each other, okay? But I look for a horse like, okay, who could we use as an example in this race? Encino. Okay, Encino to me has upside. You know, he went on the dirt in the Lexington, not an enormous producer of Kentucky Derby winners by any stretch of the imagination. It's kind of that last ditch effort to get into the race, but um, that's a horse who, when he hit the dirt, went to the lead, went all the way, relished it. Now he's experienced on the dirt. Now he knows what that type of racing is all about. He's lightly raced. He's young. The trend used to be, when everybody paid attention to dosage index, which some of you may not even remember, and stuff like that. We liked horses in the Derby, and the Derby favored horses that had a lot of bottom to them. They ran a lot. They had a lot of bottom. Games change. It's a different game now. Horses race less times a year. They race less times in their career. You got a lot of lightly raced horses, a la Justify, a la Mage, a la so many others that just have run a couple of times. So I don't let lightly raced horses deter me. No problem. I don't care if they ran at 2 or not. No problem. Justify showed us that. Mage showed us that, I think. Did he run at 2? No, I think he debuted on Pegasus Day as a 3-year-old. So that don't mean nothing. All of those things go down. They're just stats. Upside. You want a horse that, again, hasn't peaked and has shown they're still developing. They're coming into their own. We ain't seen their best yet, okay? We may have seen some of these horses' best already. We're looking for, or at least I'm looking for, a horse. We ain't seen their best, okay? I want to see their best on the first Saturday in May when I bet on them, because you need your best to win that race. Whether you're a great horse or not, you look at horses like Always Dreaming, Super Saver, Lily T, Mind That Bird. I don't know whether or not he fits that or Rich Strike, but you got horses won the Derby, never won another race. Okay, what does that tell you? It tells you, like I said, the best horse doesn't always win, and you want a horse with upside that still has potential, still has something in the tank, something we ain't seen yet, and is going forward. That's what I like. Now, some of the things that are, more subjective than objective. Okay, I like a specimen. I like to look at a horse and see, yeah, that horse got the look. He's confident. Look at him in the paddock. Look at him looking at the other horses. Those of you that remember Mike Tyson when he was fighting in his prime, and he's still a devastating looking SOB. Okay, even now, what is he, pushing 60? I wouldn't want to get in the ring with him. I would for the right price, but I wouldn't want to. But Mike Tyson is a beast, okay? And when he was in his prime, you looked at him and you knew he was a beast, okay? Half the fights he won or more, he won before they touched gloves, because you would see him walk out and the other fighter would be standing over here and he'd be standing over here and he'd just be standing with those black trunks and those black boots with no socks on, and he would look at them, and you could see the fear in their eyes. You could see they knew they were in trouble. I don't even think half of those guys wanted to win. I think half of them wanted to survive. Okay. Horses are equine athletes. Athletes respond to other athletes. Okay. If you are an average basketball player and I put you on a court with other average or below average basketball players, you'll probably play better than them, but you won't play your best. But if I put you as an average player on the court with excellent players, you'll probably play better. Now, horses are the same way, okay? You want a horse that's a specimen, that's not intimidated. You want to watch workouts, okay? And you want to watch them with your eyes. They're available, okay? Watch the workouts. See what you think. Who's working good? Who's not? I'll go back to the Breeders' Cup last year. I trust my eyes, and then I'm going to tie it into the Derby this year. And maybe I'll embarrass myself because horses humble everybody. Okay. And I've been humbled by horses. California Chrome, I thought he had no shot to win the Derby. We all know what happened. But I've been right more as much than as I've been wrong, and I make it count when I am. So, but last year there were two horses training into the Breeders' Cup Classic. Now you're going to hear everybody out there telling you how great everybody looks, and every trainer is going to love their horse like they're talking about their kids. No trainer is going to come up there and say, you know, I really wasn't happy with that last work. He worked like crap. I wish he would have went faster. I wish he wouldn't have got his tired. I wish he would have went after that other horse. I wish his action was better. Whatever. And all the media people, not our guys, we got boots on the ground. We're going to tell it how we see it, same way we did in the Breeders' Cup. Okay, and it wasn't very popular. But at the Breeders' Cup last year, before either horse scratched, I said, you know what? I wouldn't bet a nickel on Go Rocket Ride, who on the form I liked. Okay, I liked him as a handicapper, but when I saw him on the track, I said, I wouldn't bet a nickel on this horse. Archangelo might have wound up the favorite or co-favorite. I said, I wouldn't bet a nickel on this horse. I don't like how either one is getting over the racetrack. Don't like it. Both scratched. Trust your eyes, okay? If you don't like the way a horse looks and his works, if you see something, believe it, okay? Your eyes won't lie to you. This year, Forever Young, who's going to take a lot of money. You know, Japanese are winning everything. He's going to get a lot of hype. A lot of people like him. I realize he ran great numbers and has a great pattern. I realize he was wide in Saudi Arabia and in Dubai. I personally, for me, I didn't like his action down the stretch in either one of those two races. Now, he'll probably make me look bad, and I'll put him right into the winner's circle because, like I said, horses humble everybody, but I'm not afraid. It ain't the first time. It ain't my first rodeo. And, you know, God willing, it won't be my last. So, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm going to go with what I see and my own opinion and call it the way I see it. I don't like that horse's action. I don't like the way he gets over the racetrack in his races. In the morning, a little better, but I just didn't like the way he was getting over the ground in the desert, and I don't like to bet horses. I don't like the way that they're getting over the ground. So there's that. The other thing that I will say is post position. Post position is overrated. Okay. Does it matter? Yeah. Does it matter in the Derby? Not as much as it used to, and not as much as people think. Uh, the rail used to be dreadful when they had the old gate and you had, you know, that little bit of a gap inside where you had to kind of squeeze your way out and get bottled up because the rail, you know, you were inside of the rail coming up, you know, out of that shoot turn there, you know. But now with the gate out a little bit more and that straight run, you got a long run down that stretch the first time to get to that first turn. Uh, a lot can happen. Yeah, it's a cavalry. Yeah, you could get bounced around, jostled around, screwed around, messed up around. Everything can go wrong. There's a million ways to lose, one way to win. A million things can happen down that run to the first turn, but a lot of it is not as dependent upon the post as you think or as it used to be. It's just dependent upon the luck of what happens and how the race plays out and the pace and the dynamics. So I don't let post influence me as much as I used to. And another thing I've noticed, and I used to be pretty big on post position in the Derby, um, I've noticed that a lot of times if you get the trip, whatever post you're in, you make it happen and it works out. Now, there were some races, you know, some of the Breeders' Cup mile turf races where you've got that short run into that first turn. Yeah, I think the outside posts are at a significant disadvantage. When you get that ridiculous shoot at Saratoga, the Wilson shoot that I don't like at all, that they're going to run the Met Mile out of, which to me is a complete wrong call. I don't like the outside post, you know, starting on that turn like that. But in the Derby with that long run down the, you know, down the stretch the first time, I think the post is overrated, and it's something that I look at just just to look at and try and gauge who might get in trouble based on the post and the pace and how I see the dynamics in that first run. But I think again that's more dependent on what happens as opposed to where they draw. Now, now, that's not to say that, certain style of horses, where they draw can kind of put them in a position where, based on how I see the pace, they may be at a bit of a disadvantage. But again, I think there's so much luck involved with a 20 horse field that, you know, you can either get lucky or not get lucky from any post position, and it's just a matter of time till a rail horse wins, like it was just a matter of time till a horse that didn't run at 2 years old wins. So, with that, uh, last certainly not least, but for the purposes of this show and how I handicap the Derby, um, I put and a lot of people don't. I put a lot of importance on riders. I like certain riders. I think certain riders are great. Again, we're talking about athletes, equine athletes, human athletes. All right. If I'm betting my money, all right, I like a trainer I knows what they're doing, knows how to point the horse to a race, knows how to get the money, knows how to get the most out of their horse. I like a horse that has the attributes that we discussed. I like a rider who rides like a fighter pilot flies, who knows what they're doing, who's aggressive, who gets very competitive on the big days, a la Irad Ortiz. Irad on the big days, he puts that game face on. What are you going to do? But there's a lot of great riders like that. I mean, we could just go down the list, and most of them wind up with mounts in the Derby. But then you get an unknown guy like Sonny Leone jumps up and wins one. So yeah, that could happen. But you know, racing is a marathon, not a sprint. So in the long run, I like to bet on guys that I believe ride like I said uh, Tyler Gaffleone does, and Irad Ortiz does, and a lot of guys do. Uh, Antonio Fresu is another guy, Umberto Rispoli, just guys like that I believe ride like I would say fighter pilots. They really are aggressive, get up for the big days. Frankie still doing it in his 50s, gets up for those big days, Breeders' Cup days, got his first Derby mount this year. I don't know how good or not his horse may be, but Frankie's adrenaline is going to be through the roof, sky high. Is he going to win? No such, but you know, you got I consider those kind of things, and I put them in the category of intangibles. Those are the intangibles. The things that it's hard to kind of gauge and anticipate. But if you really do your homework, past performances, pace, replays, for me, thorough workouts, take a lot of notes, your own notes, your own eyes, trust them, filter out noise, bad opinions, dead opinions, opinions from people who don't bet, opinions from people who don't win when they do bet, people who bet cowboy tickets, 50-cent tickets for $500 on pick fours and pick fives. None of those people win in the long run. Don't listen to them. Boxing, betting to place, none of that stuff works long run. Hedging, all of that stuff is long term recipe for disaster or going broke. Um, and horse racing, we know, it can turn you into a millionaire if you're a billionaire. So remember that it's a tough game, but it is a skill game. It is a game that can be beat, but you got to really do your homework, know how to do it, and you know attack it the right way. Do your homework. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight and expect to win. So past performances, pace, replays, for me, double graph, workouts, take notes. And when you take your notes, what I try and do is who's going to be where when. Where's everybody going to be at the first quarter? Where's everybody going to be at the half? Where's everybody going to be at 3/4 at the mile? Where's everybody going to be turning for home when it counts and everybody needs to be in position? And who's going to be running at the end? Who's not going to be running at the end? Who's got fight? Who's got no heart? Who's got no fight? Who can't get looked in the eye? These are all the things I look for handicapping a race like the Derby or any big, top stake race, Breeders' Cup Day or anything like that. And if you really dissect it and methodically approach it all that way, I know Gio said he does. I do. I don't know a lot of people who do. A lot of people shortcut. They handicap a race in 5 minutes, and they're done. Long run, do they win? I don't think so. And again, you're talking about a game that is a skill game, and yet less than 5% or maybe 5% of the people that beat it. And if it's 10%, that's high, and that's because of the CAW players who are playing really, really based on rebates and with edges that some of the regular people don't have. So with that, it's how I handicap the Kentucky Derby. Takes me about, if you take out all the weeks of prep work and watching and taking notes and all of that kind of stuff, just when the past performances after the draw come out, takes me an hour and a half, 2 hours just to do that race alone. So you can imagine what it takes me to do the card. That's why so much work goes into the seminar, and on those big days when I like to bet serious money, I put a lot of work into it. You know what I mean? And you get what you put in. So not everybody's willing to do that. Not everybody has that discipline. But we've got some shows that are really worth watching before the Derby. We've got the Pace handicapping show. We got the ticket structure show. Excuse me, I don't even smoke. But we got all of that out there. The seminar, we'll get into all of this in a lot more detail, with a lot more analysis and opinions on the horses. Saturday at 7, we got a live show going with me, Jim Gazzale, and Gio, going to give our thoughts on the draw. I already telegraphed a little bit that, I don't place as much importance on it as everybody else. So I might be a little quiet on that show, which is a rarity for me when we start talking horses, but it is what it is. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate you all. Hope to see you at the seminar. Hope to see you at the Derby. Hope you all win the photo finishes that you are in. And let's go try and do some damage. Ciao for now. Okay, without further ado, Kentucky Derby by the Thoroughgraph Numbers and Patterns. We are ready to get the show started and see where we wind up. I think one thing that is extremely interesting to me this year is that I don't have as many contenders as I normally have in my short list for the Kentucky Derby. Normally at this point, there's 20 horses, and I got about 10 or a dozen that are kind of, checking some of the boxes and are on the radar. This year, my list is a lot shorter. But as you know, from previous Thoroughgraph Numbers and Patterns shows, this is not the end-all be-all of handicapping the race. This is just identifying the patterns that we like and the patterns that we don't like, because it's all in the patterns, and we know that. So, we're going to try and decipher who's fast enough, who's not fast enough, who's going to peak, who's going to bounce, and see, where they shake out. Now, everybody reads the numbers and the patterns differently. You may read them different than I do. If it was as simple as looking at the fastest number, we could all get online, bet fierceness, open our phones, bet fierceness, and just wait to see how much money gets deposited into our accounts, because he's run the fastest race by far of anybody in there. But it is not that simple. Uh, Not only are there 101 other factors that go into handicapping and painting the picture of a race and how it's going to be run, but there is also the fact that it's not, just the fastest thoroughbred number that indicates who the fastest horse on any particular given day is. If they all ran their fastest number every time, I mean, be kind of boring. It would take a little bit of the challenge and the talent it takes to really beat this game right out of the equation. So that's not the case. Uh, if you're fortunate enough to have a Silks horse running in the Derby or one of the undercard races or big races that weekend, I salute. That's phenomenal. Shorebred coffee. Where's my camera? You should be drinking it. It's the best and it's a great cause. Uh, no reason not to. Thoroughgraph, we know what they've done for us with so many races. Mage, Pretty Mischievous, White Barrio, so many others. Uh, just the numbers and the patterns don't lie. And that's what we're going to get into here. If you don't have a seat yet for a reservation for the seminar, what are you waiting for? Jump on board, ride with us. That's when we'll really get into handicapping and deciphering some of these races. Also, Thoroughgraph has a great seminar on their numbers that comes out a little closer to the race that you could watch in addition to this show that we are about to do. Hopefully you all watched the Oak show, ladies first. Now we're going to do the Derby show and see where things shape up. Got a lot of horses to go through, so let's get right to it. Catalytic, 2-year-old, 9, 3-year-old, 10 3/4, 3 1/4. I like the pattern this year. I don't like the fact that he didn't go forward off the first race as a 3-year-old, but he jumped from a 10 3/4 to a 3 1/4. That's a big jump. Has he bottomed out yet? I don't know, but I don't like that big of a jump coming back. Then in the Derby, I see a likely bounce or regression off that number. Even though it was his first race routing, kind of thrown to the wolves a little bit there. I give him a lot of credibility for that race, but I'm still worried about that big, 7+ point jump forward. Catching Freedom, a horse that's going to take his share of support based on the connections. 9 3/4, 9 3/4 as a 2-year-old. We got 7 1/4, 5, 4 3/4, 7, 5, 4. Getting faster, getting better. Not too fast, not big jumps, slow, steady progression. We love that. That's a pattern that we always look at and that we always consider. He's got that. So, it is what it is. Common Defense has a nice pattern, a little slower than some of the others, but still nice. And McPeak is a tough guy to read. We got that 9 1/4. We got a 9 1/4. We got an 8 3/4. Then we got paired 7s. Love those paired 7s. This horse is definitely sitting on a forward move. Is he able to jump forward enough to win a race like the Kentucky Derby? That's a little iffy. He's going to have to really jump forward in my book, but he's definitely showing signs of a horse that is going to jump forward and move forward. Deterministic, we're not going to go over because we already got the word that he's out. He's on the list, but he's out. Domestic Product, Chad's other horse, and maybe his other horse, because he's got 2 or 3 that are not running in the Derby that look like towards the latter part of the year they could be as good as any. One is that horse he run from the rail. I forget his name in the Bluegrass that took the lead. He's got that other horse that ran big, Tuscan Gold, I think his name is, at the fairgrounds. Those are two horses I think are going to be forces to be reckoned with later on down the line. But that's a conversation for another day. Domestic product, 17, jumps forward to a 7, regresses to a 14 and 3/4 as a 2-year-old. This year, he pairs sevens, kind of. He runs a 7, then a 7 1/4. Both very slow pace races. Derby Day will be the first time he gets a legitimate pace to close into, and we'll see what that does for him. But he's got those paired sevens, even though, one's a 7, one's a 7 1/2. It's close enough for me to call him paired, and I like that. Again, he's another one. I wish he was a little bit faster. He's not, but he definitely's got those paired sevens that tell me he's going to go forward on Derby Day. And Chad is a trainer that peaks for the races that he's pointing for. Dornoch. And, like I said on the Yoke Show, if you watch that, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, or a little, give a couple little tidbits about horses here that I normally don't do on the Thoroughgraph Show. I usually stick to the patterns, but there are some things I just think are worth mentioning. And, Dornoch is one of them. Haven't liked this horse. I said from the day that he beat Sierra Leone in the Remsen, he would never beat him again. Thus far, I'm right. I thought Sierra Leone ran much better that day. And if you watched our Derby Radar shows, I've explained why many times than Dornoch did, even though Dornoch came back on the inside again and beat him. I thought that was more Sierra Leone's doing than Dornoch's. But so far, I've been right. He hadn't beaten him, and I don't think he will. The other thing, there's two horses in this race. I don't like their action, which means I don't like the way they move and they run when they get over the racetrack. I'm no trainer. I'm no horseman. That is not my expertise. But I see, I trust my eyes. I see what I see, and I call it the way I see it. And I don't like Dornoch's action, and that's a big deterrent to me. On the numbers, we got a 10, we got an 8.5, we got a 6, we got another 6 as a 2-year-old. He was looking really good. He comes back. He runs a 6.5 in a weak race, then a 6 1/4 in the Bluegrass, which is a nice number. His numbers, his patterns say he's a contender and he's going forward. I can't get past his action, and I don't think he's as good as Sierra Leone. So there's that. But he does have a pattern that, if you like him, I'm not going to tell you he's got a pattern that says he can't win. Now, the thing about it is, this is the Kentucky Derby. These are the best 3-year-olds around, with the exceptions of Bob Baffert's horses, who are not allowed to run, because those are some of the best 3-year-olds around too. But they're not in the race, so we don't really got to worry about them. But you can expect a lot of good patterns and a lot of forward-moving patterns. We've got to decipher the best one and the fastest one. So we're going to have a lot of horses that have good forward-moving patterns, but we got to pick who's going to be the fastest of those. Encino is one of the ones that could be really fast. Started on the synthetic with a 13, goes to a 7, hits the dirt, runs a 2.5 at Keeneland on the lead. This is a horse that I think can be, on the lead, just off the lead. I don't think he's bottomed out. I think he's going the right way. And his forward-moving pattern is faster than any of the other ones we saw thus far. So if he goes forward off a 2.5, he's right smack in this thing. Another thing I'll say is, the 3 starts doesn't deter me. Last year we talked about Mage, and I don't know if I can quote myself, but I think I said didn't run at 2, doesn't make no difference to me, something like that. And this horse only got 3 starts, doesn't make no difference to me. Contender, moving forward, and fast enough to win. And Godolphin's been trying to win this race forever, so maybe they finally got their horse that could get them there. Endlessly, he's a turf horse. He's run on the synthetic and won. He may try the dirt for the first time in the Derby, and historically, Turf horses do run well over the Churchill Downs dirt. Is he going to try it? I guess we'll find out. But let's look at his pattern: 18 and a half, 9.5, 7 3/4. And then in the Breeders' Cup, we got a 9.5. Comes back as a 3-year-old, 8.5, 6. That 6 at Turfway Park is nice. He's got a forward moving pattern. He's supposed to have a forward moving pattern. He's a good horse, like we discussed. But is he as fast as some of the others? The answer to that is no. Can he jump forward and be as fast as some of the others? That remains to be seen. But I'm going to gravitate to the ones I know are fast enough, not the ones I have to guess that they're going to go, that far forward. Brings us to fierceness. Fierceness is an enigma. If you think he's not, you're wrong. He's got some very fast races that if he runs back to them, obviously makes him clearly the horse to beat and the fastest horse in the race if he can carry that kind of race and speed 1.25 miles. We don't know yet that he can, and we also don't know yet that he can't. What we do know is that he's never won a fight where he's been looked in the eye, but he has been training with other horses looking in the eye. So I got to think that Todd Pletcher is well aware of what I just said and trying to, get some heart into him. But that's not something you can train or teach. That's either there or it isn't, and we don't know that it is. He hasn't never won 2 races in a row, and he has never won, where things haven't gone perfect for him. Maybe the Derby will set up perfect for him. We won't know that till we do the seminar and handicap the race. But off the numbers, what do we see? We see Saratoga, 3.5. We see the 12 dud in the, what was that? The Champagne. Then we see the monster race in the Breeders' Cup where he run a 1.5 negative number. Comes back, does not go past that 1.5 negative number. And that's the kind of number that could knock out any horse. But he comes back and he runs a 4.5, doesn't go past the number, doesn't even go past his first number, which was the 3.5 at Saratoga. But then he runs that race in the Florida Derby where he just said, look at me, 3.25 negative. By far the fastest that anybody in this race has run. If he repeats that, they're probably running for second. But can he repeat that is a big question. And does his pattern say he will? I would have to say the answer to that is no. We've got 3 fast races. And in those 3 fast races, we've got a 3.5, regresses to a 12. We got a 1.5 negative, regresses to a 4.5. Now we got a 3.5 negative. Where does he go from there? I wouldn't want to bet that he goes forward off of that number. Now, that number's fast enough to be able to regress and win. But I don't like to bet horses to regress and win. I like to bet horses I think are going to go forward. So I don't like fierceness's pattern. It tends to me to be a pattern that signifies a regression. And when you couple that with the not winning, 2 in a row and never having won a fight or having to overcome any adversity, which in the Derby there's at least a chance that he might have to do, I got to go against the pattern. Forever Young. That's the other horse whose action I don't like. I don't like the way he gets over the racetrack. I didn't like it in Saudi Arabia. I didn't like it in Dubai. Probably putting these horses right in the winner's circle, but you know me. If you've been watching my show and following me, I'm not afraid to call it out how I see it. And let me tell you, nobody should be. You want to know why? Everybody. I don't care how good you are, how good you think you are, or what your opinion of yourself or anybody else is. Everybody who plays this game is going to be 2 things. 1, you're going to be humbled by horses at some point. If you haven't been already, you will be. 2, everybody that plays this game is wrong more than they're right. So the key, or one of the main keys of beating this game, is knowing how to compensate for that and overcome that, and knowing how to make it count when you are right, which is one of the things that I do best. So afraid to be wrong? No. That old saying, scared money don't win? Absolutely true. If you're going to doubt your own opinion, you're in the wrong sport. You're in the wrong game. Can't play that way. So I don't like Forever Young's action. Now, if you remember in the Breeders' Cup last year, there were two horses training in the morning that everybody was raving about. That I said I don't like the way they get over the racetrack. I think they both scratched. One was Archangelo. I forget for the minute who the other one is, but I do not like the way Forever Young gets over the racetrack. I do like his pattern. This Japanese horse, 11, 8, 5 and 3/4 as a 2-year-old. Nice, moving forward, steady, not major jumps, but good jumps. Okay. This year, he comes back, and in Saudi and Dubai, he pairs ones, very fast races. He was wide, he was game, but he was game in Saudi running down Bookham Dano, who don't want to go that far. Looked like they were both staggering to me, but he did get a one. I got to respect the number. Dubai looked like he was beat, dug in, fought, got up. Maybe he's just a fighter and he can win even with that, action that I don't like. And again, I'm not a horseman, so maybe my not liking his action ain't all that, but I bet my opinion. So I have a hard time getting past that pattern. It's a phenomenal pattern. And if you're just strictly going off the patterns, he's got one that says he can win the race. Absolutely. That said, I'm probably not going to be able to get past my opinion of his action. But we'll see. Race day comes. When the past performances and post position, all that stuff is out, maybe I'll change my mind. Grand Motor first. 14 and a half, 10 and a half, 10 and 3/4. 10 and 3/4. Pairs up. Did he pair up sixes? Yes, he did. I'm sorry, I got the split screen, and the other screen's a little bit small. And even with my prescription glasses, sometimes I can't see. I'll get them right, but I just maybe have to, move. I'm not going to give you wrong numbers. Although I did do that once. I called out a number wrong, and somebody pointed it out. Internet, you make a mistake, everybody wants to jump all over you. But I did appreciate that. The guy pointed it out, so I'm only, kind of messing around. But those paired sixes look nice. They really do. Looks like he's going to go forward. But again, fast enough, borderline. Lean more towards the negative on that end. Okay, here's another one that's going in the right direction. A little strange route pattern-wise, but Anna Marie, 11, 7, 5 and a half as a 2-year-old. As a 3-year-old, we got 9 and 3/4, 5 and a half. Going the right way. Looks fast enough. Didn't really go past the number first time out, but certainly did second time out. This is a horse that's going the right way and might be a dangerous type of long shot off his pattern if things set up for him. So he's one that I would put on the list of ones to watch if you're so inclined. Just a touch. Screams talent, his pattern. Nothing at 2 to look at, but at 3, what do we got? We got 2.5, 2.5, and 2.5. This horse done nothing but run 2.5s. Lightly raced, learning the game. Hasn't done it enough times to say that's his level. He's not going to go forward. I love that pattern where you repeat those good numbers to signify a forward move. I see a forward move. Love the 3 numbers. The lightly raced nonsense does not bother me at all. Used to be you needed a lot of bottom, a lot of experience to win the Kentucky Derby. That's changed. Lightly raced horses win it, a la Mage, a la Justify, a la a bunch of others. Doesn't really matter. So, very interesting horse, just a touch. Just Steel. This one's got a lot of races. What do we got? We got a 26 and a quarter. We got a 9 and 3/4, 7 and 3/4, 14 and a quarter, 18, 9 and a half. Then he jumps all the way to a 2.5. Off the 2.5, he comes back and runs an 8. Then he goes forward again to a 2.5. Then he runs a 7. Then he runs a 1. Now, here's a horse that we've got 3 fast races. He regressed off every one of them. The last one is his fastest one yet. I got to say he's going to regress again. I don't want to look for a horse that's going to regress, even though a 1 is a fast number, so he could regress to a 2 and 3, maybe still be a contender depending on how they come back. But I want a horse that's going forward, not that's going backwards, no matter how fast it is. Brings us to Mystic Dan. Interesting horse. No question about that. 9.5, 6.25, 14.5. Comes as a 3-year-old, 9.5, 0.25 in the mud, 3.5. So, what do you do with a horse like this? He's got a fast race as a 2-year-old, 6.5. He's got a very fast, 0.25 number as a 3-year-old, albeit in the mud. He regressed a little off that. He was entitled to. I think this is a horse that can go back to a fast race. And when I say fast, I mean, faster than the, 3.5, closer to that 0. So he's got, in my opinion, a good pattern. It's a good, bad, zigzag type of pattern. Good race, bad race, good race, bad race. But, I don't love that pattern, but I like it a lot better when it's going in that direction, as opposed to a horse coming to a bad race. Resilience is a horse I liked in the Wood Memorial. He seemed to really put it together. I would call that a visually impressive race. Did not come back exceptionally fast. But let's look at his pattern. We got 15.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5. Goes to a 6.5, and then a 4 in a Wood Memorial. I wish that Wood was a little faster, but this is a horse that's getting faster, and 4 is fast enough to go forward off and be in contention, because 2, 3, 4 points forward puts him in the mix with at least some of these contenders. So I'd say forward moving pattern, dangerous. Then we come to Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is a horse I've been high on since I first saw him. But let's see what the numbers say. The numbers say 9, 4.75, 4.5. So he goes forward in his first 3-year-old start, a little bit off the 2-year-old start, and then he runs a 1.5 in that bluegrass win. So we got a 4.5 at the fairgrounds, 1.5. Visually, we know that his last 3 races he was wide. My opinion, fantastic pattern going forward. 9, 4.5, 4.5, 1.5. Where's he go off that 1.5? 0, 1 negative, 1.5, 2 negative, maybe. That puts him almost close to Fierceness's best race. So Fierceness regresses a little bit or doesn't put 2 together. I think that the pattern says that this freight train locomotive is going to be coming and running at the end, and you definitely want a horse with a forward moving pattern that's going to be running at the end. So Sierra Leone is absolutely a serious player with a serious pattern and fast enough to win the race. A 1.5 can wind up winning this race. There's no question about that. So Sierra Leone, dangerous. Society Man, 23, 10, 13.5, 10, 4.25. Big jump forward. Kind of worries me a little bit. When he jumped forward from the 23 to a 10, he regressed to a 13.5, although there was a lot of time in between the 23 and the 10. There's not a lot of time now. I tend to see it as a regress pattern. Uh, Stronghold. Stronghold is a horse that we know can fight, and he's one that's got a really, really good pattern and on borderline fast enough. 8, 7, 7.5, 7 as a 2-year-old. Nice. Not too fast, not too slow, but fast, getting faster. As a 3-year-old, 6.25, 5.5. Going to go forward. Now, forward enough to get those horses that are, at those 2s and 1s. That's a big jump. But at this time of year, those horses can make those jumps. And, like I said, we're going to add some tidbits. This is a horse that's going to be sitting in the right spot, knows how to win a fight, going to get to jump on some big closes, knows how to reel in other horses, and he's got Antonio Fresu riding him, who's riding as good. I don't care what you tell me. All right, I watch riders close. I know my riders. Antonio Fresu is damn good. Top class rider, riding as good as anybody in the country, quietly out there in California. But make no mistake, this guy can horseback and is going to have this horse in the fight. Is he fast enough? We'll find out, but he's definitely got a very, very good pattern. T.O. Password, the other Japanese horse. We got no numbers on this horse. This horse gets in, knocks other horses out because of the, system they got where they're trying to get some international flavor to these races. I get it, but I don't know what to make of him. I haven't watched his replays yet. I will. I'll be prepared on this horse for the seminar, but we really can't offer any numbers or analysis of his pattern because he ain't got one. So at least not one that we could see. Track Phantom. Track Phantom. Not in love. 9, 9, 7, 5 as a 3-year-old, 6, 6, 7. Doesn't go past his 2-year-old number. Numbers going the wrong way at this point. That's a pass for me. Don't like the pattern. Last, not least, West Saratoga. We got 23, 20, 14, 11.25, 10.25, 7, 10.75 as a 2-year-old. Comes back, doesn't go past that number, but shows steady improvement. 11.75, 8, 7. He's got a forward moving pattern, but not fast enough to, be in contention with the others. So going backwards, West Saratoga, I'm going to say no. Track Phantom, no. T.O. Password is a mystery. Stronghold, good pattern, potentially fast enough. No knocks there at all. Society Man, we said no. Sierra Leone, Freight Train, make no mistake about it. Here comes the locomotive. Resilience, definitely a forward-moving pattern. Can be one of the ones that can surprise. Mystic Dan, another one who's got, he's got a race that's fast enough to win this, and he's on the forward end of the zigzag pattern. Not in love with him, but he is. Just Steel, no. Looks like a regress, just a touch. Very intriguing pattern. Certainly looks like he's going to be fast enough. Anna Marie, another one that's going forward, live long shot. Doesn't have to go forward that much to get to the fastest ones in here. Grand Motor first. I think we voted him down. Borderline, but does have a forward moving pattern, but I'd like it to be a little faster, but he's not that far behind. Forever Young, excellent pattern. Don't like his action, but the pattern is excellent. Fierceness, we spoke a lot about. I see a regression in his pattern. It reminds me a little bit of Dreaming of Julia. Run that 6 negative in the prep race at Gulfstream for the Kentucky Oaks, and everybody couldn't wait to bet on her at odds on. And Todd's other horse, Princess of Silmar, win the race at 25-1. And yes, we had her, and we were dead set against Dreaming of Julia on the bounce theory. Now, in fairness, Dreaming of Julia didn't get out of the gate well, and that might have contributed to the bounce. But a bounce is a bounce is a bounce, and they're not only for basketballs. And she regressed. Fierceness looks to me like he might regress endlessly. Steady might like the turf. Definitely, I might like the dirt. Turf horse, if he runs, he's not hopeless, especially if we get a pace collapse. Encino is definitely on the high short list, high on that list. He's only got, he's going forward and only got to go forward a little bit off that 2.5. So he's definitely one of the ones that I'm looking at. Dornock has got a pattern, but don't like his action. But his numbers say he's going to go forward. Domestic Product, another one that looks like it's going to go forward, but and the interesting thing about him is he's going to probably get the first fast pace to close into that he's ever seen. So that kind of upgrades those paired sevens to me a little bit. Deterministic is out. We said that. Common Defense, decent pattern going forward, but a little slower than the others. Catching Freedom, he had a good pattern. A little bit behind some of the ones I like more than him, but definitely had a good pattern. Cataclytic looked like a regression to me. So that is my analysis on the Thoroughgraph numbers and patterns for the Kentucky Derby. To me, it is what it is. It's all in the patterns and numbers when it comes to Thoroughgraph and how you read it. That's how I read it. You may read it differently. Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll have some good discussion. We'll definitely discuss a lot more of this when we do the seminar, and we'll have a lot more handicapping, to go off when we do the seminar, and we'll be able to decide then, who the picks are and who the picks aren't. But again, if you narrow down the short list, I got 2 or 3 on there that are really on my short list that are, horses I'm considering wagering on. Just because a horse has a forward moving pattern. Like I said, to me, the sevens, moving forward off the sevens, a little too slow. 6, borderline, could go either way. 5 is fast enough, and anything faster than a 5 is indicative to me that they can go forward fast enough to win the race. I hope that you all enjoyed the show. These shows are a lot of work. A lot of production goes into them. So we appreciate everybody that watches, everybody that subscribes to the channel, everybody that hits the like button, everybody that leaves a comment, everybody that says thanks. Thank you all. Grazie. Much appreciated. So do I know who's going to win the Kentucky Derby today? No such. Nobody does. Anybody that tells you that doesn't know what they're talking about. Anybody tells you they know who's going to win the Derby today, you should not be listening to at all. Plenty of time to make your decision. I do know, and I've said this all along, that I love Sierra Leone as a racehorse. I think he's coming into his own. I think he's been brought along perfectly by Chad Brown, who has brought horses to the Derby perfectly before without winning. This might be his year, but we got to see how the pace shapes up and everything else shapes up, and paint the picture. And we'll do that once the time comes. But he's, to me, is probably the leader of the class, above Fierceness, because of the questions that we have about Fierceness and the heart and guts and that kind of stuff. But that 3 negative number is by far faster than anybody else has run. And if Todd Pletcher can get him to do that again, like I said, the race might be for second, but I would bet that the answer to that question is probably no. And the only way that would change is when we do the race, we see the perfect scenario for him where he's drawn to stalk some speed or get the lead or something like that, and if he clears by 2 or 3, then everything changes. But it looks like at this early juncture we got pace in the race. remember, the Derby is a tough race. It's a rodeo. There's always great spots on the undercard to go after. We'll try and find some of them at the seminar because they can be a lot easier to cash than the Derby. The Derby, there's always some luck involved. Breeders' Cup Day, Derby Day, those are the days I like to play the pick sixes. I don't really play them anymore except for those 2 days with some, very few rare exceptions. We did the O.J. Simpson story, a lot more racetrack tales, and that's tales spelled Tales or Tails, depending on your preference. But a lot more of them coming up too. So not only do we have handicapping, we've got that great Dylan Davis day in, day out series that Jim did. We're going to have boots on the ground at the Derby. We're going to have boots on the ground at the Preakness. We're going to have boots on the ground at the Belmont at Saratoga, and we're going to have boots on the ground at the Breeders' Cup. So ride with us. We'll make it fun. We'll make it worthwhile. We'll try and catch a couple of winners along the way. Thank you for tuning in, and ciao for now.
They're off in the 2023 First Crop Sires Race. Maximus Mischief makes the lead with the most 2-year-old maiden special winners by any sire. On the backstretch, Mitoli and Omaha Beach close the gap with stakes performers from coast to coast. Vino Rosso finds his best and leads on the turn with 4 Grade 1 colts on dirt. But it's Mitoli with his 3rd TDN Rising Star, your champion freshman, leading an impressive Spendthrift Superfecta.
With new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all 3 past performance formats. Go to drf.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Leone, a top 10 first crop sire in 2023, standing at McMahon of Saratoga. 14 first crop winners, including My Shady Lady, winner of the $500,000 New York Stallion Series 5th Avenue Stakes, Grade 2 winner Winstock, and Stakes winner Solo Shot. Solomini, the 7th leading freshman sire and the only top 10 freshman sire with a Grade 1 or Grade 2 winner. He sired a $700,000 2-year-old at the OBS April sale. His juveniles sold for nearly 6 figures on average, more than 12 times the stud fee. Solomini, a controversial DQ from being a Grade 1 winner by 2-time Horse of the Year Curlin, standing at McMahon of Saratoga Thoroughbreds. Sure Bet Coffee. Put the giddy up in your cup. Tracking trips with Pick 6 King John Stettin. It's one of the best tools in horse racing for any level of player. It's your second set of eyes, spotting troubled trips, betting angles, track trends, horses to watch and favorites to fade, 10 figs, ticket structure, and more. At Tracking Trips, you're a friend with benefits. Not a member? You must hate winning money. Join Tracking Trips now. Visit pastthewire.com and we'll see you in the winner's circle. Remember, nobody does it better.
does it better.